Hey guys, it's Austin, and today I'll be talking about the Boston Massacre, which happened on March 5th, 1770, on the streets of Boston, Massachusetts. The massacre was a turning point where tensions between colonists and the British government ignited powder, and it played a major role in shaping public opinion in the years leading up to the American Revolution. At the time, British soldiers had been stationed in Boston for over a year, enforcing the king's unpopular laws like the Townshend Acts, which taxed and regulated the colonies. The colonists saw their presence as an occupying force rather than soldiers of their own nation. According to historian Erik Hinderaker, in Boston's massacre, locals were frustrated by both the economic pressure of British policies and the visual reminder of British control, armed soldiers walking through their city. That frustration boiled over one cold night when a crowd confronted Private Hugh White near the customs house. The crowd grew larger, hurling snowballs and insults alike. Eventually, more soldiers arrived, accompanied by their leader, Captain Thomas Preston. Preston later wrote in his own defense that he never gave the order to fire and that his men were overwhelmed and surrounded. He insisted that they were attacked first, struck with sticks and snowballs packed with ice, and they only fired out of self-defense and confusion. His account paints a very different picture than what was described in the anonymous colonial publications, which framed the soldiers as aggressors in the ordeal. One of the most well-known of these anonymous accounts, dated 1775, claimed the soldiers deliberately fired on the unarmed multitude, clearly pushing the view that this was a massacre rather than a chaotic confrontation. Now, 250 years later, can we really credit an anonymous account, or do we think that it was written to polarize the colonial opinion leading up to the revolution? It's hard to say. But that contrast between the British perspective and the colonial perspective shows us just how divided the views of the event were. John Tudor, an eyewitness, described the moment vividly, saying that the horrid carnage was unlike anything he'd ever seen. But even eyewitnesses weren't exactly neutral. Many colonists already viewed the British soldiers as a threat, and their accounts often reflected that bias. Stories of the massacre circulated through newspapers and pamphlets and helped unify the colonies around a shared sense of justice. But were the stories exaggerated? Paul Revere's engraving, for example, wasn't accurate. He showed that soldiers firing in a coordinated line, with Captain Preston clearly giving the order, was the way the events turned. But, that image was powerful and spread widely. It shaped public opinion, making the British look like cold-blooded murderers. And yet, when it came to the actual trial, John Adams, who would later become president, actually defended the soldiers in court. As Turner and Stinson note in their article, Adams believed in the rule of law and argued that even unpopular defendants deserved a fair trial. He succeeded in getting most of them acquitted, with only 2 found guilty of manslaughter. And needless to say, he demonstrated moral courage and commitment to justice befitting of a president, even in the face of popular anger. And in the end, the Boston Massacre helped push the colonies further down the path to war, stirred public emotions, deepened mistrust in British authority, and became a symbol of what many colonists believed was tyranny in action. And the accounts, whether accurate, biased, or outright propaganda, show how powerful perspective can be in shaping history. Thanks for listening.